Morning students. Today we are going to learn about our natural satellite Moon. Moon is our natural satellite and it is the brightest objects in the night sky, and it takes 27.3 days to go around our Earth. Okay, and the moon does not have lights of its own. It reflects the light of the sun. The moon does not have lights of its own. It reflects the light of the sun, and there is no air on the moon, and it is composed of lot of rocks. What it is? Lot of rocks are there. Okay. And the first man to land on the moon, that you know that, who are they? Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin and Michael Collins. These three people first landed on moon, and they went on a separate spaceship called Apollo 11. Who is an astronaut? That the people who are going to space are called astronauts. So the first three American astronauts reached on moon. They are Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin and Michael Collins. On which year? 1969, 20th July 1969 they reached on moon, and they collected many rocks from there, and after reached here they handed over these rocks, and scientists lot of experiments conducted on that rocks, and they got a lot of information about the moon through that rocks. And they went on a special vehicle spacecraft called the Apollo 11. Apollo 11. There is a special spacecraft. On this spacecraft they reached on moon, and these are the three people. The first men reached on moon, and on which year? 1969, 20th July. Now we are going to study about the surface of the moon. Surface of the moon. Surface of the moon. Surface of the moon. The surface of the moon is not smooth. The surface of the moon is not smooth. The moon has deep pits on its surface called craters. Deep pits on the surface of the moon called the craters. C-R-A-T-E-R-S. The surface of the moon is not at all smooth. It consists of lot of deep pits. These pits are forming due to the heat of meteors. Meteors are the heavenly bodies that contains lot of rocks and all, and it always revolving around the planets and all, and due to the hitting of these meteors, lot of deep pits on the surface of the moon, and it is not even. A lot of pits are there, and it's not a very smooth surface. Okay. And the moon surface appears to be made of bright areas and dark areas. Actually, moon surface consists of two areas called bright areas and dark areas. So, moon contains lot of dark areas and bright areas. Bright areas on the surface of the moon are called the highlands or mountains. The bright areas of the surface of the moon are called the highlands. The bright areas of the surface of the moon are called the highlands or mountains. Highlands or mountains. Highlands or mountains. The moon has a mountain peaks that are more than 6,000 meters high. That much peaks are there on the surface of the moon. More than 6,000 meter high peaks are there on the surface of the moon, and that we call it as highlands or mountains. They are the bright areas, and some dark areas are there. And this dark area is called Maria. Dark areas on the surface of the moon are called Maria. In Latin, Maria means seas. What is the meaning of the word Maria? It has the meaning seas. S-E-A-S, seas. The early astronomers initially thought that the dark portions of the moon were seas. First, the ancient times, the astronomers were thought that these dark areas are seas on the moon. But actually, they are not seas. They are the pits on the surface of the moon. And so they named these areas as Maria. So, scientists believe that the moon's north and south poles may contain frozen water. Nowadays, scientists are believing that water content is present in the surface of the moon. Okay. Next coming, phases of the moon. Phases of the moon. Phases of the moon. We know that the moon reflects the light from the sun. As the moon revolves around Earth, only a part of it gets light from the sun. We see only the part of the moon that gets light from the sun. The other part remains dark. The part of the moon that is lit up appears to increase or decrease in size. Because of this, the shape of the moon appears to change every night. The different shapes of the moon are called phases of the moon. So, what are phases of the moon? The different sizes of the moon known as phases of the moon. And how does this happen? Actually, moon shape is like our Earth. It's a round shape. So, a part of only one part will get light and the other part will become dark. And we know that the moon reflects the light from the sun. As the moon revolves around Earth, only a part of it gets light from the sun. So, moon actually a satellite of Earth. It always revolving around the Earth. And due to this revolution, only one part of the moon gets light from the sun. And the other parts remains dark. And we see only the part of the moon that gets light from the sun. The other part remains dark. Due to this, the part of the moon that is lit up appears to increase or decrease in size. The part of the moon that is lit up, appears increase or decrease in size. Because of this, the shape of the moon appears to change every night. Actually, because of this, the revolution of the moon around the Earth, only some part of the moon get only light and the other part will become dark. Due to this, some part lit up and the other parts remains dark and appears to increase or decrease in size. So, the different shapes of the moon are called the phases of the moon. Actually, there are three phases on the shape of the moon, and one is crescent, like this. This shape is called the crescent, and this is called the half moon, semicircle half moon, and this is called a full moon. This is crescent moon, this is half moon, and this is full moon. These are the different phases of the moon. The moon takes 15 days to change from new moon or Amavasya to full moon, Paurnami. Okay, and these are different shapes of the moon. And its shape appears to change into crescent, then a semicircle, and finally the full moon. The moon again takes 15 days to go from full moon to new moon phase. So, from new moon to full moon it takes 15 days, and the reverse, from full moon to new moon it will again takes 15 days. Okay, so these are the different phases of the moon. Okay, today that my children. Thank you and have a nice day.
Surface of the moon. The surface of the moon, Earth's only natural satellite, has many craters plains, mountains, and valleys.
Craters were formed when meteorites, comets, and asteroids smashed into Moon's surface at high speed. The flat areas are called seas or maria. The rocky mountain areas are called highlands.
Scientists believe these were formed around 3.5 to 4.5 billion years ago.
It does not have light of its own, but reflects the light it receives from the sun.
The moon is surrounded by a vacuum and lacks an atmosphere. It has no liquid water on its surface. The surface temperatures on the moon are extreme. All these conditions on the moon possibly do not support life. The absence of air on the lunar surface makes the moon a dry, lifeless, and very quiet place. As sound cannot travel in the absence of air or any medium.
Moon facts.
Tides. The various phases of the moon are accompanied by the formation of tides. The tides in the oceans occur due to the gravitational force of the sun and the moon. The full moon and the new moon cause the ocean waters to rise higher as compared to the first and the last quarter phases of the moon. Twice a day, the ocean waters rise and fall during high and low tides respectively. This tidal cycle lasts for about 24 hours and 50 minutes. Due to this, high or low tides occur every 12 hours 25 minutes. The knowledge of tides holds great value, especially for fishermen and sailors. Spring tides and neap tides. During the full moon and new moon phases, the sun, the earth, and the moon align in a near straight line. So, twice a month, the tidal level is slightly higher than the average. In both the phases, the gravitational forces of the moon and the sun combine to exert a stronger gravitational force on the oceanic waters and produce the highest high tides and the lowest low tides. These are called the spring tides. During the first and the last quarter phases, the moon and the sun are perpendicular, that is, at right angles to each other, and therefore their respective gravitational forces cancel each other. This results in a lower tidal range than the average. The lower gravitational pull produces the lowest high tide and highest low tide. These are called neap tides. Phases of the moon. The moon is a non-luminous heavenly body.
We can see the moon because the sun's light illuminates it.
The moon revolves round the earth, which in turn revolves round the sun. As a result, the moon at times comes between the earth and the sun while at other times the earth comes between the sun and the moon. This change in position of the moon between the sun and the earth creates the phases of the moon. Full moon. The full moon takes place when moon is on the opposite side of the earth from the sun. The moon usually passes above or below the earth's shadow. Thus, the moon reflects the light of the sun and thereby appears completely illuminated. New moon. The new moon takes place when the moon comes between the sun and the earth. During this time, the unlit side of the moon faces the earth, while its illuminated side faces the sun.
Therefore, the moon is not seen very clearly from the earth on a new moon night.